So let's cover the inside of this bag. We'll have to take a couple of things down to make it easier to open. We'll get this big bottle out of there. I'll open up this first pouch. It's a little bit tight in there. And we've got a few things in here in the front end of this pouch. First off, easy access, because you never know what the weather's going to be like. I've got an emergency bag and an emergency blanket. These can be used in conjunction. You can make a shelter plus get into this thing and keep yourself a little extra warm. So these are nice lightweight additions. I keep those in the front just in case the weather goes sour real quick and I need quick access to shelter. And then in this pouch, I have a little jute chute. Got some fire starter jute right here in a little tube so I can quickly extinguish it and conserve my fire starter. And then I got a little magnesium bar with a ferro rod in it. It's a Collins brand. These are nice little things to have. Good fire producers. Then down in the bottom of that, I've got a brand new Bic lighter. I've taken the safety off of it so that it's easier to light when my fingers are wet or bitter cold. And then I wrapped it with some duct tape so that I've got stuff for quick repairs, sealing things up, connecting things, whatever you might want to use some duct tape for. There's a good little bit of it on there for an emergency. Dig way down in there. And I got this neat little gadget. I'm probably going to have to untie this and show it to you instead of explaining it. This is a really, really good little bag to have. And I'm not talking about the tiny little black bag. There's another bag inside of it. It is a military issue rubberized sack. I'm not exactly positive what they call it, but this thing is really versatile. You open it up, and it's about the size of a duffel bag. It gets pretty big. It's got a rubberized liner, and it holds air. With a little bit of cordage, you can fill this up with air, tie it up. It used to have a little rope that came on it that was right here, but it's long since been lost. I got this at a surplus store for, I don't know, $1 or something like that. But it's airtight, it's watertight, and you can use it as a life preserver, for instance. If you need to ford a river or something like that, and you need a flotation device, you can air this up and seal it off, and you can use it to float on. You can also put your backpack inside of it and seal it up if you need to cross a river that's, not quite deep enough that you need to float across, but deep enough to where you want to make sure you keep your stuff dry. So you can fit your bag inside of this. You can also move certain resources like water, for instance. You can put a whole lot of water in this. And there's a lot of reasons that you'll want to do that. It's lightweight, it's small, it's compact. It fits inside of, I think this is a bag for a pair of sunglasses, So that's a really great bag to have. Keeps things waterproof and dry. It'll protect your food and whatever extra clothes you might be wearing. And then I've got a compass and a USB cable. This USB cable is great because I've got a lot of rechargeable devices. My phone, for instance, everybody's got a phone they need to recharge. I've got the charger here so that I can keep my devices charged. This will be charged off of a USB port. My radio's charged off of a USB port. So it's great to have those. Again, 2 is 1, 1 is none. Keep at least 2 of them around. And I've also got a couple of little diaper pins, bobby pins down here, just in case I need to quickly pin up something and move on. These can also be turned into fish hooks, and all sorts of other little uses for them. They're handy to keep a couple around, but they don't take up much space at all. Then I've got a package of toothpicks, because, well, toothpicks can be pretty handy. They're burnable, so, you know, you got a little extra dry fire starter in there if you need to. Then I've got a Sharpie marker and a small ballpoint pen. And in here is some writing material as well, just in case I need to write notes, leave notes, and again, it's burnable. You can never go wrong with burnables. Fire is your priority in any situation where you're exposed to the elements. You have to have a source of heat in cold environments. So, you know, I'm living in the northern hemisphere up in the western Rockies, so that's pretty important to me. Let's break into the meat and potatoes, if you will. So here's where the brunt of my supplies is stored. I've got a Life straw. That'll help keep me hydrated. Got some honey roasted almonds for a nice little sweet treat. Here I have some Mio vitamins, just to add some flavoring to my water. This is orange tangerine, and it's got some vitamins in it. So, you know, that's a good source of vitamins. It's lightweight and compact. This is the E-rations that I mentioned earlier. These are really, really tasty. I've let several people in my family taste it, and they all like it. Actually, my mother described it as like a pie crust, a really sweet pie crust, and that's a really good description of what this tastes like. It's a little bar, and it tastes kind of like a sweet pie crust. It's got the consistency of a good pie crust like Grandma used to make. And it's got some, like, you know, sugar and some coconut flavoring in it, so it's pretty tasty overall. It's not something that you're gonna dread having to live on. You'll want to drink a lot of water with it though, because it's pretty dry. And then I got a little like a Boy Scout mess kit. We'll tear this apart real quick. I find that the mess kits, these classic style mess kits, fit great in a Crown Royal bag, believe it or not. I've long used those. I used to work in a restaurant and ended up getting like one of these bags stuffed full of Crown Royal bags, and I don't think I found enough uses for them. I've still got them laying around, but this little mess kit fits perfectly in a Crown Royal bag. And then I got some, you know, Jetboil cooking gear in here, a little pot and pan, and a fork and a spoon. These are nice little lightweight things that fit in here out of the way, so I don't have to worry about looking for them later. They're always with my cooking utensils. And then I got this little pop-up cup. It doubles as a measuring cup so that I can measure. I think it's probably most accurate at about half cup in 1 cup, you know, but I believe there is some markings down in there somewhere. But this is an 8-ounce cup, so that's going to be handy for measuring proper amount of water with for my soups. But I also have, you know, the markings on here that I can easily and quickly measure out some water. So this is a great little cooking set that will help you cook several different things. Yeah, I've got primarily soups in my cook's food pack here, but you know, if you're good at foraging, you can end up, you know, finding some fish or something, for instance, and making yourself even more food and better meals than what you brought. So, you know, there is that. It's good to have a lot of different options with you. Again, referring back to the 1 is not, or 2 is 1, 1 is none rule. Make sure you have a lot of options and can produce a lot of options. You know, this kind of refers back to the more you know, the less you carry rule too. Sometimes you don't necessarily need to carry a lot of food on your back or a lot of gear if you can, you know, make do with your situation. Your shelter, for instance, we haven't quite covered shelter yet. I'm still digging that out, but you know, on the subject of shelter, if you can, always try to find some kind of a natural shelter system so that you don't necessarily have to rely on this. You know, if you're in a city, shelter under a bridge or in a large culvert or somewhere where you can not have to worry about going through the labor of setting up shelter, because the more energy you conserve, the more calories you conserve, the better off you are. So here's my food pack that I put together, and you can see on the front here I listed out the contents, and I put an expiration date on it based on, you know, the average date that this stuff inside is going to expire. And it's got, you know, 2 cups worth of cheddar broccoli soup, which is pretty tasty stuff. And you can make it thick and use it as a dip or a sauce. You know, if you end up finding yourself some kind of, you know, I don't know, cattail root, and you want to go through the process of preparing it and turning it into like mashed potatoes or something, you put this stuff, turn it into a sauce and put it on top, and you got a pretty tasty side dish. You know, and then there's 2 cups of zuppa toscano. It's a kind of a noodle and bean dish. It's pretty tasty. It's got some vegetables in it. I've got spaccarelli. It's like a green split pea soup with noodles in it, and it's tasty. And there's 3 chocolate mint protein bars, 3 chocolate peanut butter protein bars, 2 cracker packets. You can see those cracker packets right there, and then some peanut butter packets. 3 pouches of chunk chicken, 3 instant coffee pouches, 5 honey sticks, 3 salt and pepper pouches, some Tabasco, a wet nap, and some paper napkins. You know, you got to cover your bases, of course. And this little package should stay pretty good and edible in my bag for approximately 3 years or so. Some of the stuff like the honey, you know, that's not going to expire. But I do have to worry about like the peanut butter and the meat, because of the fats and stuff can eventually go rancid. You know, if I leave this in my pickup all summer long, it might lower the expiration date to, you know, the end of the year. After that, I'm probably not going to want to eat it. I'll tear it apart and save what I can and rebuild it and put it back in the bag for the next year, because this chicken, you know, and the peanut butter, not very expensive. I think there might be $3 worth of chicken and, you know, at most $2 worth of peanut butter packets there. Then I got 3 sticks of jerky. I'm actually probably going to switch this jerky out because I don't really like Jack Link's anymore, and in hindsight I'm not sure why I got it. This stuff is loaded with MSG, and well, that stuff's not good for you. It doesn't really taste good either. So I'll probably switch these out for like Old Trapper brand or something. I might even get a package of jerky that's got a longer expiration date than this stuff does, because Jack Link's doesn't seem to last very long. And then I got this. This is like a civilian version of a military poncho half tent. I got 2 of these. One for my wife and one for I, so that we can actually put them together to create a larger shelter if we end up together with our bags. You know, that's a really good option to have. This also doubles as a raincoat. It's got a little place for your head to go through, and you can, you know, cinch it up around your face, and you can wear it if it's raining a torrential downpour. But it's got little eyelets all around it so that you can string it up as a rain fly. You can build a tiny little A-frame tent out of it to make a shelter, and a couple of other different configurations that you can do with it. It's not really a large tarp when it's opened up, but it's suitable for one person to stay out of the rain. And then I've got, you know, this is some undergarments, some insulated clothing, like long johns type stuff and a long sleeve shirt and a little head thing. I do have to update this a little bit more, maybe get some lightweight gloves or something, but I don't really like wearing gloves because I like using my fingers. And then I've got this. This is, I don't even remember the brand. Kind of an unfamiliar one to me. One Tigris, actually. It's an underquilt or a quilted bed liner or something like that. It's supposed to be used as a hammock, but it's kind of like an open-faced mummy bag is what it ends up being. So you can use this to get a little extra warmth at night, and it ends up being a really lightweight sleeping bag that doesn't take up much space. And using this in conjunction with your Mylar bag, for instance, you get inside of this, it's nice and comfortable, give you some really good insulation up close. And then to conserve that, you can slide inside of the Mylar bag afterward to help reflect whatever heat is escaping back into this. I haven't tried it yet. I'd really like to. I'm kind of afraid of screwing up the Mylar bag and making it impossible to put back where it was. But I think it'll probably work pretty good as a little extra protection in on a cold night. Overall, this pack isn't necessarily geared for extremely harsh weather like we've seen pass across the United States here a couple of weeks ago. Up here around where I'm from, we seen 13 below zero Fahrenheit weather during the daytime, and and after dark it was most likely 20 below. You're probably going to need something a lot more insulating than this if you're stuck out there. My suggestion and advice is find better shelter. Don't stay out in the elements. If you can get indoors, if at all possible, do so, because you're not going to last very long in that kind of temperature unless you have suitable shelter and heat. This might produce enough heat. Let's say if you're, for instance, I had an experience during that storm where I was up at an an elevation of, I think it was about 8,000 feet. And I spent the night in a cabin that had a stove that ended up not being sufficient for that particular temperature that we experienced that night. The cabin was old and run down. It was really drafty. The chinking was falling out, and it was really, the doors didn't even shut. So it was a really uncomfortable night for me. This probably, if I got into this and a Mylar bag, I probably would have been comfortable in that situation overnight. But in the morning when I woke up, it was 34 degrees in my cabin. So this probably would have came in handy in that kind of a situation. And then I got some socks. Extra socks are really, really important. You got to take care of your feet. Your feet, if they hurt, you're going to be miserable. And if you're miserable, you're probably not going to make it. So these socks in particular, they're copper socks, and copper's got some antifungal properties. It really helps get rid of things like athlete's foot, believe it or not. I struggled with athlete's foot for a long time until I got these copper socks, and they are a lifesaver. Having some of these socks in your backpack, that's probably going to be a good idea, because you don't know what kind of fungus and stuff that you're going to run into when you're dealing in some kind of an emergency situation. If you've got to cross swampy area and you get your feet wet with swamp water and you're walking for days and days, you can't take your shoes off. Your feet are just kind of what would you say, fermenting in it. You're probably going to be growing some fungus and stuff. Having some good socks that will have antifungal properties, really smart thing to do. And then the last thing that I have, there it There's something hiding down inside of this front pouch that I did not feel. It is cordage. Another very, very important thing to have, especially for building shelter with like a tarp like this. You're going to have things to tie down. This cordage in particular is Titan cord. It's got some waxed jute inside. It's also got some copper wire that can be used as for making snares, for instance. Also, if you're like electrically inclined or you're dealing with electrical devices, this could possibly be used to fix broken connections, for instance, because it looks like it's made out of copper. And then there's also some fishing line in there, which is really, really nice. Having some fishing line inside of your cordage, that's just another method of securing the protein that you need. And then it's got another little lighter onto it, on the side of it, so that I can quickly melt the end of the cordage. This little spool has got a razor in there, so I can cut it without using my knife. That's another source of fire, of course. So I've got my fire covered several times, which is really, really smart. Fire is your priority. It's your number one priority in any kind of situation where you're in a harsh environment, like I said, especially cold environments. Of course, in hot environments, you need fire for other things. You're going to want to use the fire, A, for purifying water, and B, for, like disinfecting food, for instance. You don't necessarily want to be going in and eating wild meat without cooking it. You might end up finding yourself with dysentery or worse. Maybe dysentery is the wrong word. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. Then I've got in here another Crown Royal bag because they're so handy. I'm not using my own bag that I designed specifically for stealth fire, but this is the Bush Runner stove. It's super thin. It consists of 12 panels. 2 of them are these square panels that serve as like a doorway or a tunnel way if you build it in the form of a Dakota fire pit. And you can assemble this stove like a Dakota fire pit, as I just mentioned. You can take this stove, it'll produce a 4.5 by 4.5 square cooking surface. And you can bury this stove in the soil, in the sand, and put your fire below ground, which is really, really important in some kind of a emergency preparedness situation. You don't know what you're going to be facing facing in this kind of a situation. It could be like an earthquake where a lot of people are evacuating the city and many of them are on foot, and you happen to have this bag running out of the city, but a lot of people are unprepared, and you're hiding out in the woods. You got all of this food and all of this gear, and if you're making a fire to cook your food or whatever, you're going to be attracting attention. Fires, above ground fires, they put out smoke, which is a telltale sign that somebody's there doing something from a long distance. It sends a plume high into the sky before it dissipates on a good day, So you don't necessarily want to be doing that if you don't want to attract looters and what have you, the kinds of characters that will come into your camp and take your stuff. You don't want that to happen, so you really want to remain unseen. The Dakota fire pit is great for that, and the Bush Runner creates a small little fire pit that you can put in a trench. You can light your fire. You can cook over it quickly and easily without creating too much above ground light. And once it's built and running, if you're using dry wood, it doesn't smoke at all. And that's superb. I mean, if you're cooking over a fire, you don't want smoke in your face first and foremost. Even if you're not concerned about telling people where you are with the plume, smoke it's bad all around. It's bad. It's really good to not have smoke come out of your fire if you're in an emergency situation. There's a lot of attention that you'll be attracting in times like that that you don't want. Most likely, if it's an emergency, that means that our emergency crews, they're probably not functioning. They're overwhelmed. The system has broken type situation. So the attention that you're going to attract is probably not the attention that you want. The bush runner stove will give you the ability to lay low, conceal your camp, prepare your food, boil your water, and keep yourself warm at night, no matter where you are. So that being in these bags gives these bags an overwhelming advantage over the common bug out bag, where it seems to be focused on, long term going out and just surviving off of the land. Yeah, I've got other things that I could add in this, but we focused on keeping it lightweight because I think that we've all experienced a situation where we're heading out to the woods and we're going camping and we load our backpack up and then we get to the trailhead and we throw that backpack on our back, and after just a short distance we realize we made a big mistake. We put too much weight in. Then we get to camp all miserable and exhausted, and we're unpacking everything and we find that we got too much garbage here. We got so many things that we're not using. Why did we bring this? We're not going to use it. And it just did nothing but weigh us down. So I wanted to make this as lightweight as possible, with an understanding that I have some knowledge that will aid me in making some of the other things that I might need in a situation where I've got to basically live off of my environment. For instance, I got some knowledge of wild edibles in my area, so there is some sustenance I can gather from the land outside of what I brought in this bag. That keeps the overall weight on my back down, keeps my back happy, that keeps me happy. But then, I've also got, one of my things, my EDC. This is a really great little Leatherman. It's a Leatherman Surge. It's got a lot of great utilities to it. It's got a knife, scissors, and a saw, and the saw blades are replaceable. I've got 3 different blades for it. I've got one that's a file, one that's a wood saw, and one that's a hacksaw. So I can cut through several different materials with that. I've got all of these little bits so that I can dismantle things and repair small items if I need to. Down inside of this, I've got, I can't remember the name of it. Come out of here, you little bugger. Fire putty, I believe is what it is. Not sure that I'm so impressed with this stuff. I can make something suitable just like it at home with some like beeswax naphtha and some cotton swabs. Makes a great little fire starter. I bought this mostly so I can have the container to refill it with that. But it works. It's a sufficient fire starter, and it fits down in the bottom of this pouch it's MOLLE capable, so I can fit it on the webbing of my backpack here and keep it off of my hips. It's got a waterproof pen. It's got a little mini bellows and an extension for my bits on this side. This stuff all fits really nicely on this elastic side bars of this package. I really like that. I can pack everything inside of this pouch really nicely and quickly and easily fit it on my back just by unsnapping this right here, zipping it up. Then on this side I've got this is a little ferro rod. So I've got another fire starting opportunity that I keep on my hip all the time. And more fire starter inside of that. And then there's a nice little diamond fire knife sharpener to keep my blades honed. And then I've got one more thing in there. Inside of the Velcro lid, I found that I could fit, it's a little aluminum pill container is what it is. You put it on your keychain. But inside of it, I have a tiny little spool in the lid. You might not be able to see it in there, but that's a tiny little spool filled with spider wire. I don't know how many yards is on it, but that's quite a few yards of fishing line. I've got a sewing needle in here, and the sewing needle will work with the spider wire fishing line so that I've got a sewing kit if I need to repair clothing or something. And then there's a bunch of sinkers, hooks, and swivels inside of a little metal, I don't even remember what the heck they call it, thimble. All of that stuff fits inside of this little tiny medicine container, and then it slides nicely and happily into the lid, the Velcro lid of this Leatherman tool. I put the needle in the center so that it passes through the center of the spool.